In the first two parts of the effects of a nuclear bomb series, we took a road trip to Chicago to observe the effects of a 20 kiloton terrorist-type nuclear bomb and a 500 kiloton warhead, an approximation of the typical warheads that might be used by today's superpowers. In part 3, we will look at the effects of the largest deliverable weapon that has been in the arsenals of superpowers, a 20 megaton thermonuclear bomb. There was a time when the United States and the Soviet Union fielded large numbers of these doomsday machines. These city destroyers sat atop ICBMs from both countries at one point. Many think these weapons were designed to kill as many as possible, but that simply isn't the truth. Missile accuracy at the dawn of the ICBM was not the greatest. An early ICBM could miss its target by miles. Since warhead technology was ahead of missile guidance, the solution was to build a warhead that could destroy its intended target even if it did miss by miles. As guidance technology improved, warhead yield shrank. But what if one of these weapons were used? Surely a weapon 40 times more powerful than Part 2's and 1,000 times more powerful than Part 1's could destroy a city. This time, it isn't a loaded question. A 20 megaton warhead detonated over the Sears Tower would be triggered to go off right around 10,000 feet for maximum overpressure damage. Within about 10 seconds, the entire skyline of the city of Chicago would vanish. Our friends at the zoo would face winds of 700 miles per hour and overpressures great enough to crush the human body. Complete and utter destruction would rain out to 6 or 7 miles. Very few would survive. 10 miles away at Loyola Park would be the very first place we could put this explosion into context. Even here, the fireball would fill your entire field of view looking south as it expanded to almost 5 miles wide. The thermal pulse would last around 40 seconds, all of the while emitting enough energy to start fires and burn human flesh to the 3rd degree. In less than 45 seconds, the blast wave would arrive. It would destroy ordinary homes and damage even concrete reinforced structures, and be followed by 200-mile-an-hour winds. Due to the sheer amount and duration of thermal energy emitted by this bomb, firestorms would be of major concern. Chances of survival would be limited to those underground and in concrete reinforced structures away from flying debris. Even if you did survive the initial event, if a firestorm were to start, it would raise temperatures into the hundreds of degrees and suffocate the survivors with carbon monoxide. But amazingly, initial radiation would be a non-factor. Too many variables come into play in a bomb of this size to estimate the number of survivors 10 miles away. But that number would probably be pretty low. On a clear day, 25 miles away at Munster, Indiana Centennial Park, the thermal pulse of the bomb could be great enough to start combustibles on fire and cause 3rd-degree burns to those directly exposed. The fireball would be instantly visible and take up a significant portion of the sky. Those undercover would have to stay undercover until the thermal pulse dissipated. At this distance, though, what is going on in the atmosphere could play a major role in how this thermal pulse affects the people in the park. The 3rd-degree burns would only be caused on a clear day with relatively clean air. If it were hazy, misty, raining, or a day with low clouds, these effects could be lessened as the moisture and particles in the air would absorb a majority of the thermal energy. Even so, the blast wave would be on its way, arriving in 2 minutes, with enough energy to severely damage most typical residential structures. Windows would be shattered and could be shattered with enough force to send glass flying, furthering injuries. The shock pulse would be followed by 60-mile-an-hour winds. Those who seek shelter in basements and interior rooms at this distance will probably survive. Those caught in the open have no choice but to lie flat and hope flying debris doesn't strike them. A good percentage of people would survive at this distance initially. If fires weren't a major concern, the neighborhoods at this distance might resemble one that was severely damaged by a large tornado. All in all, this 20 megaton bomb would damage and destroy nearly 2,000 square miles of structures. Damage would be in the trillions, and the thought of recovery would be an unfathomable endeavor. In retrospect, the genesis of this series was people giving me information about their situations and asking what would happen if. If you want to be safe from the effects of a deliverable nuclear weapon, you might want to live 50 miles from any target. And even at this distance, we're not taking into consideration the fallout. In any ground burst, fallout could easily reach out to 50 miles. In 1954, the United States detonated a 15 megaton thermonuclear warhead at Bikini Atoll. Due to a miscalculations, the bomb's yield was 2.5 to 3 times what was expected. The detonation was basically a ground burst, and deadly radioactive fallout was dispersed at least 300 miles away. Even 200 miles from the blast, the exposure to the fallout would have given the average human a lethal dose of radiation in an hour or two. While a ground burst of a multi-megaton weapon is unlikely, it is possible. Without shelter, it would be unsurvivable hundreds of miles downwind from ground zero. If you haven't already, check out our How to Survive a Nuclear Bomb series. The events that would take place after a detonation of any nuclear weapon on a major city are up to speculation, but the economic costs might be so severe as to strain the resources of any wealthy nation. If you found this information to be insightful, hit the like button below, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the Tin Hat Ranch channel. Thanks for watching.